Disney's Snow White live-action remake has stirred up a storm of controversy. From casting choices to major script changes, fans and critics alike have been debating whether Disney is taking a bold new direction or ruining a beloved classic. For decades, Disney has dominated the film industry with animated masterpieces, and in recent years, live-action remakes have become a major part of their strategy. Some, like The Jungle Book and Aladdin, have been box office hits, praised for balancing nostalgia with fresh storytelling. Others, like Mulan and The Little Mermaid, faced backlash for changes in storytelling, character alterations, and deviations from the original films. Now, Snow White is the latest remake to find itself at the center of a cultural debate. The original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1937, was Disney's first ever animated feature, an iconic film that set the foundation for the company's legacy. With its classic fairy tale charm, it has remained a fan favorite for generations. But with the upcoming live-action remake, fans are divided. Some are excited for a modern reimagining, while others are frustrated by what they see as unnecessary changes to a beloved story. The main disputes? First, the casting of West Side Story star Rachel Zegler as Snow White, which has sparked a heated discussion about representation in film and faithfulness to original characters. Second, significant script changes that reportedly remove key elements of the original fairy tale, including the traditional romance aspect. And finally, the debate over the portrayal of the Seven Dwarfs, following criticism from actor Peter Dinklage. So what's really going on with Snow White? Is Disney making necessary progress, or are they alienating their core audience? Let's break down the biggest controversies surrounding the film. One of the biggest sources of controversy surrounding Snow White is the casting of Rachel Zegler in the lead role. The West Side Story star, who is of Colombian and Polish descent, was announced as Disney's new Snow White in 2021. While some praised Disney for casting a Latina actress in such an iconic role, others were critical, arguing that the choice strayed too far from the traditional portrayal of the character. The backlash came from multiple angles. Some Disney fans believe the studio should have cast an actress with fair skin, resembling the character's description in the original Grimm Brothers fairy tale, skin white as snow. Others saw it as a politically motivated decision by Disney to push for more diversity in its films, a move that has sparked similar debates in previous live-action remakes. Zegler herself responded to the backlash, stating that she was honored to take on the role and that Snow White's story is about more than just her looks. However, her comments in various interviews, where she referred to the original Snow White as outdated and emphasized that the remake would focus on a more independent heroine, added fuel to the controversy. Some critics interpreted this as a rejection of the original film's legacy, leading to further division among fans. On social media, the debate became even more intense. Supporters of Zegler argued that representation matters and that fairy tales can be adapted for modern audiences. Opponents, however, questioned why Disney was making such a drastic change to a well-established character instead of creating new stories with diverse leads. Some also pointed out that if the roles were reversed, if a traditionally non-European character were played by a white actress, there would likely be significant backlash as well. Hollywood has been trending toward diverse casting in recent years with mixed reactions from audiences. While some see it as a necessary step toward inclusion, others argue that forced diversity can feel inauthentic if it alters key aspects of a story. The argument is particularly strong with Snow White, as the character's fair complexion is an explicit part of her name and identity. This isn't the first time Disney has faced backlash over casting in its remakes. The Little Mermaid remake, starring Halle Bailey as Ariel, faced similar criticism, but ultimately found success at the box office. The question now is, will Snow White follow the same path, or will the controversy overshadow the film's release? With the casting debate ongoing, another major point of contention lies in the changes to the script and storyline. What's different this time? Let's take a look. Beyond the casting controversy, another major point of debate is the reported changes to the story itself. The original Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, 1937, followed the classic fairy tale. A princess is poisoned by an evil queen, placed in a deep sleep, and awakened by true love's kiss from a prince. However, early statements from the film's cast and production team suggest that the live-action remake will take a very different approach. Rachel Zegler, the film's lead, has emphasized in interviews that this version of Snow White will be stronger and more independent. She stated that the character will no longer be saved by the prince, and that the film is moving away from the idea of a traditional love story. Instead, the remake will reportedly focus on Snow White's journey as a leader, aiming to modernize the story for today's audiences. While some fans support this evolution, others feel that Disney is unnecessarily rewriting a classic. The romantic aspect of the original Snow White has been a defining feature of the story for nearly a century. Critics argue that removing it strips away an essential part of the fairy tale's charm and identity. Another point of contention is the villain. The evil queen, played by Gal Gadot, is still present in the film, but rumors suggest that her motivations and storyline might also be altered. In the animated classic, the queen is obsessed with being the fairest of them all and grows envious of Snow White's beauty. Some reports indicate that the new version might attempt to give the queen a more complex or sympathetic backstory, similar to what Disney did with Maleficent. These changes highlight a larger trend in Disney's recent remakes, shifting away from traditional fairy tale romance and reimagining characters to align with modern values. Similar changes were made in The Little Mermaid, where Ariel's motivations were expanded beyond just falling in love with Prince Eric. However, critics argue that in trying to modernize these stories, Disney may be losing what made them timeless in the first place. Ultimately, the question remains, are these changes necessary for a new generation, or is Disney overcorrecting in an attempt to appeal to modern audiences? Next, let's talk about one of the most heated debates, the controversy surrounding the Seven Dwarfs. One of the most heated debates surrounding Disney's Snow White remake is the portrayal, or rather, the reimagining of the Seven Dwarfs. Unlike the 1937 animated film, which featured 7 distinct dwarf characters, the live-action version is reportedly taking a very different approach. The controversy began when actor Peter Dinklage, known for his role in Game of Thrones, publicly criticized Disney for perpetuating what he called outdated stereotypes. He argued that while Disney was making efforts to cast a Latina actress in the lead role, they were still falling back on an offensive depiction of dwarfs. His comments sparked widespread discussion about whether the original portrayal of the Seven Dwarfs was insensitive or simply a product of its time. Disney quickly responded, stating that they were taking a different approach to the characters. Instead of 7 traditional dwarfs, the remake will feature a diverse group of magical creatures. Early leaked set photos suggest that this new group includes actors of different heights, ethnic backgrounds, and genders. However, this change only ignited further backlash. Many fans questioned whether Disney's response was an overcorrection. Some members of the dwarfism community spoke out, stating that the roles in Snow White provided rare opportunities for actors with dwarfism to be represented in a major Hollywood production. By removing the classic Seven Dwarfs, critics argued, Disney may have inadvertently reduced visibility for actors with dwarfism rather than promoting inclusivity. On the other hand, supporters of the change believe that updating the characters is necessary to avoid reinforcing outdated stereotypes. In traditional fairy tales, dwarfs are often portrayed as comedic sidekicks rather than fully developed characters. Some argue that Disney's new approach could allow for more meaningful representation, even if it deviates from the original story. The debate reflects a larger challenge in Hollywood, balancing nostalgia with cultural sensitivity. Should classic stories remain untouched, or should they evolve to align with modern values? As of now, Disney has not provided many details about how the new magical creatures will fit into the story. Whether this decision will be embraced or rejected by audiences remains to be seen. With so much controversy surrounding Snow White, what does this mean for the future of Disney's live-action remakes? Let's discuss that next. One thing is clear, the Snow White remake has sparked one of the most divisive debates in Disney's history. Whether audiences ultimately embrace or reject this new version, the film will undoubtedly serve as a case study for how studios approach classic stories in the future. So what do you think? Is Disney making the right choice in modernizing Snow White, or is the magic of these classics being lost? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this discussion, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the biggest stories in entertainment.